Hello and welcome to the EB Knits YouTube channel. My name is Emily. I'm the founder and creator behind everything you'll see here at EB Knits. I am here today with a finished object video. It is not what I'm wearing. I made this last year, 2019. No, I didn't. I finished it in 2020 actually, in January. So I forgot to mention this in my Instagram post today. Wow, I just realized that. Okay, this is the Ski Lodge pullover by Erin Elizabeth W. I just used a bunch of scrap yarn that I wanted to get rid of. I think I have a YouTube clip about it in one of my first videos. So that's it about that. But wow, I can't believe I finished this in 2020. I'm going to have to make note of that because I totally forgot about this one. It just seems like forever ago. But today I'm coming at you with I promised myself I wouldn't say coming at ya, and I just said it. The holiday Tunisian Crochet Holiday Sampler Blanket, that is a mouthful, by TL Yarn Crafts. Toni is the designer. She is huge in Tunisian crochet. She has a really big presence on Instagram especially and YouTube in the maker community. She designs tons of crochet pieces, and like I said specifically, she's niched down to Tunisian crochet. And the minute I saw her picture of this blanket, I was like, this is so beautiful. And then she was all, it's so easy, it's all beginner, I teach you step by step. We're gonna have videos for every single square, and it's gonna be a crochet along, and it uses LionBrand Pound of Love, which I already had a couple of skeins of. So I was like, okay, if this isn't the time, I don't know when it is gonna be. So I said, I have to make it. I don't know if you're able to see it all in this video because it's a huge blanket. Every square is like 12 inches, and it's 5 squares by 4 squares. So that's, 5 foot by 4 foot approximately. So it's a really big blanket. I took videos and photos, so I will insert them because you probably can't see it all, like I said here, but it's perfect. So every square is different. It's a different Tunisian crochet stitch. I followed the pattern almost exactly. Now, she recommended to use 4 colors, 2 main colors, and then 2 contrast colors. I generally do that kind of. This minty and this blue were 2 of my main colors primarily. And then I just threw in like green, gray, I have a little tan. So, it is cool colors with some neutrals thrown in. So I think, at least for me, it like goes together very well. I think the colors coordinate and mesh really cutely. Yeah, I'm just trying to look at some of my favorite squares. So I'm not gonna be able to, I have in front of me a breakdown of what all the squares are. I'm not gonna be able to remember every one or even remember, oh, that one is this, that one is this, just because I'm not an expert in Tunisian crochet yet. This is all I have done. And it was very easy. She was absolutely right. It was super easy. Her videos and tutorials are extremely helpful on YouTube. Her blog posts are very detailed. It's all free, but if you want to pay for the PDF pattern, you could have done that. I just followed along on the blog and on YouTube. The crochet along started, I think, October 1st, and it was supposed to run 6 weeks to mid-November. I did not finish by then. I just finished mid-December. But I was excited to get it done in 2020 because it wasn't looking too good. And then I kind of the last couple of weeks of December said, I'm going to focus on this, and I got it done. Yeah, but everything is mostly the same that I did, except I didn't do the tree square, which would have used, well, in knitting I would call it duplicate stitch. I'm trying to find it. Oh, this green. Is this plain? I just did this plain green. Just Tunisian simple stitch. And then you were supposed to I don't know what we would call in Tunisian crochet. Knitting would be called duplicate stitch over it. I don't know. Embroider? I don't know what it would be called in crochet, but like a tree or any design you wanted on top. And I originally was going to do that, but then I finished it. Originally I was like, yes, it's super, it reminds me of the holidays. I want to do that. But then we were, like I said, I was finishing it in December and was like, holiday season's almost over. I want this to be universal. The colors are universal for any time of the year. And a tree can be any time of the year. It just reminded me of the holiday season. So I just decided to leave it blank, and I really wanted to get it done, and I said it's not a priority for me to learn how to do this technique right now. So basically just my laziness. But there are some really good cool squares, like this home. That's probably the most detailed square in terms of like intricacy, but there's meandering cables, which is right here. So in knitting, you know, we have cables, and in Tunisian crochet she's created these cables as well. She called them a meandering cable square. This was a really popular one, the lacy shell stitch, I think that was called. This got some love when I posted it out of my Instagram stories. Some of them are simple, like both of these. This one is just two-tone Tunisian simple stitch. This one, I don't know what that is. It might be bias or lattice stitch or something. That might be the on the bias square, this one. But it's just one color, but then the ones that are just one color have different textures. So like there, that might be the arrowhead stitch. Here's a colorful square. This is one of my favorites, the bobble square. This is one of my favorites, another just, I forget what the name of this stitch is, but I really like the different colors I used in it. I think they're complementary. So yeah, this one was a little bit, something I realized, I crochet very loosely. So it's a 6.5 millimeter Tunisian crochet hook that is requested for this pattern. And just like with knitting or with other fabric crafts, you know, she recommends you do a gauge swatch, you check your gauge, and you adjust accordingly. I just purchased one Tunisian crochet hook and said this is what it is. So instead, some of the squares, when I realized I was crocheting so loosely and my squares are coming out really big, which is a blanket, who cares, it could have been fine, but I just, again for ease of laziness, went down a few stitches in the stitch count if that was appropriate. And so I used less stitches, but because I was crocheting so loosely, it came out the correct size. This one was an example where I had no idea how to do this pinwheel technique, so I followed it to the letter. Now I wish I would have only done like 10 pinwheels or something because it came out so huge, but it is what it is, and it's on a corner, and I don't really care. I think it's fine. For the border, so then you make all the squares, then you steam block them. I've only steam blocked like one thing. Otherwise, I pretty much wet block all my garments, and for my accessories, I don't really block them at all. Blocking is like gently washing them. But this was steam blocking, so you just pin it down to cardboard in the 12 by 12 size that it's supposed to be. Or, excuse me, I pinned it down to cardboard because I don't have blocking mats, so that's what I've adjusted. I wouldn't want to leave that, you know, for a soaping wet garment on that for a while. It's definitely just a cheap trick that I'm using for now. But I know blocking mats are really inexpensive, so I just need to get them. There's nothing, I don't know what's holding me back. So anyway, I steam blocked these, and oh my gosh, it helped so much. I was a little dubious because this is 100% acrylic yarn. Oh yeah, I mention that it was great because I had the yarn on hand. This is primarily all stash yarn. So I didn't have to purchase anything new, and I think I got a wonderful blanket out of it. So back to what I was saying, steam blocking. Oh yeah, I was a little dubious just because I've never steam blocked before, and I've also heard that acrylic yarn doesn't block. It just is what it is. But the steam blocking did work. I was so excited. So it really, especially like the square I just showed you, this square was like barely squarish before. Now it's pretty square. The on the bias square, is that this one maybe? Which means, you know, on a diagonal. That was one of the first squares I made, so it was not very good. This square was my first square I ever did of Tunisian crochet, and it was pretty small because I was so tight and doubtful about what I was doing, so I was able to stretch that. So a lot of them, the steam blocking really worked. So I'm really excited to say that I've learned a new technique. It really does work. And then in the comments I did read that if you're using acrylic yarn, steam blocking is pretty much the only method that will work. The wet block isn't going to work for the acrylic. So that's what I read in the comments. It was also really fun. I followed the Cal Holiday 2020, I think was the hashtag on Instagram. I followed that, and it was really cool. Toni was commenting and liking everyone's posts. So It's always really fun when like a big time designer that you look up to takes time out of her day to follow that hashtag as well and interact on your posts. That's really cool. So I really liked that. Like I said, I liked following the hashtag, and I also am a part of her Facebook group, and they had one person in particular, a lot of people were posting their finished products. One person in particular posted a guide on if you switch up the colors that Toni recommends. She's like, Toni did diagonals. I'm not going to be able to explain it clearly, but it's just really cool to interact with other makers and designers who give tips and see things that I definitely would not have seen. And so then when I was laying all my pieces out, in the pattern, Toni suggests, this is what I did. This is exactly where I put every square. But since I kind of just went wild with my, obviously not my colors aren't wild, but since I strayed from her pattern and her suggested colors, I switched up the squares a little bit just so that they were in an order that made more sense to me. But I also followed that rough outline that someone in the Facebook group had recommended. So that was, again, something I definitely would not have noticed by myself. So it's always good to just interact with other people, and that was really helpful. So I appreciate when people point out their insights and share. Okay, so I was talking about steam blocking it. We steam block it, then we seam it all together. It's a slip stitch, I believe, seam. Again, I've never made, even with knitting, I've never made one of these blankets. In terms of blankets, I've only made two. I made a plain stockinette one with a border for my sister, and I made a daisy stitch blanket for one of my great aunts. I loved that blanket. It had so much fun texture. So this is my first personal blanket and third blanket ever that I've made. So I've never done the quilt-ish technique or the different squares and then seam them together. So that was a new technique for me. It was really easy, and it was quicker than I thought. It probably took 15 minutes per seam, 20 minutes per seam, so it wasn't bad. And then the border is pretty huge. So it's, like I said, a 5x3 blanket before the border, 5x4, foot blanket before the border. So it was a big blanket. It probably took me a whole movie to get this entire border done. It is, I just did 3. So Toni recommended 4 colors, 4 repeats. I just did 3 because these were the primary colors of my blanket. I started with gray, and then I did the mint and the navy that I had. And I thought about repeating the mint and the navy, and I started to. And I just didn't love the way it looked, and I was like, this looks nice to me. So I left it as is with just the 3 repeats, and I think it looks perfectly fine. I think that's really all I have to say. I definitely recommend it. I loved learning Tunisian crochet. I definitely want to do more. I love following Toni on Instagram. I think her designs are so cute, and she's so a fun follow. So I will certainly be making more of her designs, checking out her blog and staying up to date. So, and her tutorials were amazing. Can't recommend them enough. Even if you don't want to do this, but you just want to try Tunisian crochet, every single square had a YouTube tutorial of its own. So that was really helpful. Yes, so overall, recommend the pattern, recommend the designer, recommend knit-alongs, recommend Tunisian crochet, recommend stash diving for projects. I don't have much home decor yet. We have some, and we're slowly building. So I made this. I don't actually have a video, but I made this pillow in March, I think, during quarantine. This again was with stash yarn, and then it's Wool in the Gang, Super Trooper wool, I want to say, in navy. And they actually were out of stock in this if I wanted to buy more, so I just improvised with other colored blues I had in my stash and made a striped back, so it doesn't totally match. And then it's also supposed to have, it's also supposed to have more fringe down here, but I ran out of yarn. So this is what it looks like. This is a Yarnspirations free pattern. I'm just holding this up to show you other home decor I've made for myself at this point, and I think it's nice. It's a navy pillow, bluish pillow, and then cool toned blankets, so those kind of coordinate. And we have those on the couch here in our living room. All right, I think that is it for me for this finished object video. You can follow me on Instagram at EBKnits for more knitting content. I love sharing with you. I just looked at my top 9 for 2020 and it was all handmade garments that I made for myself personally. So maybe you guys are into some more of my personal makes, and that's really fun. So I'll keep sharing. Thank you so much for following along, and I'll put some pictures in so you can see the full blanket in the environment and me cuddling up in it and all that. So thank you for watching. Have a great day, guys.